Okay, Luis, welcome to the Business Advisory Show, or dare I say, please welcome me to your office. This is fantastic. Here we are.
It's great to have you, John. Thanks for coming over. Thanks to you and the team for coming to 20 Bond Street, Level 8. This is home. We love the Sydney CBD.
Yeah, it's a great building, great location, and really funky setting. We'll grab a couple of shots of that on the way out. It's really quite nice. So we've got a few traditional questions before we get on to the really cool stuff. Okay, so we love to ask our strategic, award-winning tech partners out there, what does business advisory mean to you? And that's a general question. You can answer that any way you like. Yeah?
Sure. The different types of jobs you can do in the accounting and bookkeeping world, and you can do bookkeeping, you can do keeping the numbers. You can do stuff that's a little more strategic. In our world, business advisory is, being able to take a step back and helping small businesses, think about what's ahead, and looking at the data, looking at some numbers, and then providing insight that'll help them be better off in the future. So that could take the shape of looking at reports and saying, here's what I'm seeing, here's how I would be making some decisions in order to improve your business. But I think it's everything that's above and beyond just looking at numbers and reporting out. It's bringing that insight in and helping small businesses, grow and do better in the future.
Yeah, and I've got my own view very confidently about what you guys can do for bookkeepers and accountants, but what do you think bookkeepers and accountants benefit from in terms of their journey to business advisory because of what Receipt Bank has become?
Sure. What we love about the industry, John, is that it's going through dramatic change, and the whole profession is in the middle of reinventing itself, and so solutions like ours, enable accountants and bookkeepers to not just put together numbers, but it's to get high quality data into their accounting, systems, into general ledgers, and then be able to provide more insight and really leverage technology in order to focus on more value-added services, which, by the way, they could charge more for. So I think we're in a great part of the evolution of the industry where by taking technological solutions that help save time, like Receipt Bank, help you focus on value-added insight that, frankly, gets you paid even better and makes small businesses at the end of the day much better off. So it's sort of everybody wins.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you've become you've become a pretty big team here too, right? This is how many of these people in Sydney are supporting, users, bookkeepers, accountants out there? Because I was really impressed when I walked in. This is not a small operation.
The beauty about an organization like Receipt Bank, and I think you know this, John, I used to work for Intuit, which is, Intuit QuickBooks, pretty large organization, 8,000 people around the world. Receipt Bank's been around almost 10 years. And so in the startup world, that's a pretty long time. We've got about 450 people around the world. Wow. And we're about 45 here in Australia, really serving Aussie accountants and bookkeepers and their small businesses. But for the most part, we're focused on making accountants and bookkeepers in Australia better off, helping them save time in order to either clock home early or go out and get more clients. And so it's exciting. I'm thrilled. Today is my 1-year anniversary at Receipt Bank, John, which is very, very cool.
Congratulations! And
it's almost like my birthday today. So
what a coincidence! So it is a coincidence.
It's a total coincidence. Yeah, it's literally we do Slack here internally, and I got my 1-year anniversary mug today. So no, I'm very, very excited. Like I said, I used to work for QuickBooks for almost 9 years, and being here and leading the team in Australia has been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait for the future.
Yeah, well said, and good on you. Well done. You've got such great industry insight with that history as well. What do you think the biggest issues are facing the accounting and bookkeeping industry over the next 2 or 3 years?
I think it's both a challenge and an opportunity. The concept of how to leverage technology to take your practice and your small business's practices to the next level, right? So technology can either hurt you or help you. And what I mean by that is solutions like ours enable accountants and bookkeepers to become 2 to 5 times more productive. And so if you're using technologies like ours, you're going to be in a much better place within a year. If you're not using us, you're actually really going to fall behind. And so that's number one. It's like, how do you leverage technology to improve the health of your own business? I think the other thing is, and there's a bunch of other solutions out there. It starts with cloud accounting, but then I think about, just other solutions like a practice ignition, like a spotlight reporting. You put these solutions in a tech stack, right? And if you put together a best of breed tech stack, you could reinvent your business dramatically. And again, I think that's just yet another opportunity for everybody to drive more growth, drive better insights, charge more money, and be much better off. And so, we're just seeing some of the success that some of our partners are having in just a matter of years. They're literally going from working with 8 clients to 64. We're talking about becoming 8 times more productive. And it's just by, taking a cloud accounting solution, taking Receipt Bank, and basically doing the same thing that we're doing, focused on doing right by their clients. So it's exciting times.
Actually, I've heard a few really great success stories out there, and you just prompted me to think about that. I don't think that the accountants and bookkeepers that have yet adopted tech stack advisory really appreciate how much new business that can lead to them. Is that something you're also hearing and experiencing?
I'm very, very happy to share, specific insights, because sometimes these are what really drive, can make a difference for our viewers' practices. I'll give you an example. One of my favorite partners of ours is Michelle Grisdale. She's been using us for a long time. She tells a story about how she brings the Receipt Bank app to every new, customer meeting she has. And she says, by the way, you're going to use this app. Let's pull out your receipt. You just bought me coffee. Pull that out. Let's take a picture. Let's crumple the receipt together. Let's throw it away. You are now up and running on Receipt Bank. She literally, that's a wow moment. She describes it as, I drive a smile in their faces during our first meeting, which is off. You get a relationship off to a great start. It's the beauty about Michelle. She knows that not only, by the way, is that a wow experience for them, it builds a habit that enables her to drive a very efficient business on the back end. So everybody wins, and she's just leveraging a technology that, she is paying us to use. Of course, it's for her to, then leverage. And by the way, she is then looked upon as a thought leader and as somebody who is, just about one of the most respected bookkeepers for tradies out there.
Yeah, you made such a good point, because behaviour change is in fact the missing ingredient or the key ingredient in business advisory for the customer, the business owner. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of what she does. She ingrains that behavior change in the first meeting. Yeah. And she makes them realize the value of, wow, I don't need to keep these receipts, so that pain in the butt goes away. All I got to do is, if you can take pictures of your kids, you can use Receipt Bank. She makes them realize that, and they're off and running.
Fantastic. Now, what about that for business owners? What do you see as the biggest challenges on their horizon? So, sure, accountants and bookkeepers have got, dare I say, the most disruptive period in their entire history on planet Earth. But what about small business owners?
I do think small business owners are so much better off now than they were, 5-10 years ago. And the reason I say that is there's all this technology that really helps you focus on what you love to do. Small businesses get into business to, pursue their passion, not to do books, not to, sort of interface with accountants or bookkeepers. But I see just all kinds of opportunities for them now. As an example, we enable, small businesses to take pictures and never miss, a tax deduction ever again. Whereas before, they forgot all these receipts, they put them away, put them in the wash, and they no longer can, basically deduct a bunch of expenses. We make that kind of stuff go away. There's a lot of other solutions like cloud accounting, like Receipt Bank, that just make them better off. And by the way, you think about technologies like Square that enable them to get paid on the spot. I mean, I think it's an exciting time to be a small business. But having said that, they will rely on accountants and bookkeepers on what is the best technology out there to run my business. And so it's back on the accountant and bookkeeper, trusted advisor. It's never been more important. So yet another opportunity on the accounting and bookkeeper profession.
Yeah, and I think that's another great insight, because behaviour change and habitual adoption, if you like, of tech the longer it takes for a small business owner to adopt even Receipt Bank, which is such an easy app to adopt, as a behaviour change, well then it's almost like there's a delayed benefit ROI, isn't there? Because if they're like dominoes. Yes. If you don't knock off the first one, you can't go to the second one. So behaviour change, I think, for late adopters in small business will become a real distinct disadvantage to being competitive.
You know, what's been interesting for me is in the last year, working very closely with accountants and bookkeepers, either using our solutions or not using our solution because they're not ready. What's become crystal clear for me is small businesses completely rely on accountants and bookkeepers. They come to them and say, what should I use? What do you want me to use? And the worst thing you could do for them as an accountant or bookkeeper is not have a strong perspective. So literally back to Michelle Grisdale or Stuart Brandman for 542 Partners. You know, Stuart walks into a meeting and says, we use Xero, we use Receipt Bank, this is what we expect you to use. And by the way, we're all going to be much better off using these solutions. They get off to such a better start to their relationship using best-of-breed solutions. And then, again, the behavior starts building, and then everybody is better off. So my piece of advice, based on just a year being here at Receipt Bank, but by the way, same thing applied in my QuickBooks days, you owe it to your small businesses to give them a strong point of view on what technologies they should use. Don't sort of diddle-daddle with it. Like be prescriptive. They may choose not to follow you, but frankly, 90% of the time, they don't have the time. They don't have the patience. You just tell them what to do, and so you're in a much more credible and much more trusted position than many of you give yourselves credit for.
Yeah, I totally agree. And just thinking about the size and the scale of your organisation, putting it in perspective, there's another stage of capital funding that's been announced by Practice Ignition, another 26 million. But that's 50 employees at the moment around the world. I thought you said 450 in here. Yeah, so that's a massive organisation. Retrospectively, that's huge.
We've been around almost 10 years, John, and we've raised $65 million US dollars through our evolution. And yeah, the number one market is the UK. Number two market is Australia. We do business now with over 50,000 accountants and bookkeepers around the world, over 13,500 here in Australia. And through those accountants, we touch over 300,000 small businesses around the world. So it's a big operation. Obviously we've got great plans for the future, and so we're excited about what's to come. But you're right. Over 9 to 10 years, you invest a lot in people, in the product, and it's sort of no coincidence. We now do business with a lot of accountants and bookkeepers and small businesses around the world.
Yeah. And just on that, how important do you think it is going to be for accountants and bookkeepers to transition to business advisory as opposed to, relying on their traditional practice?
I obviously different strokes for different folks, but what I can tell is we're at an inflection point in the industry where you can choose to keep doing what you're doing and get really, really good at it. And by the way, you can make decent money doing that. But business advisory, almost by definition, is higher value add business. And so if you feel comfortable giving that type of business advice, if you feel comfortable doing a little bit of the legwork to understand what the best solutions are, like I said, whether it's a Practice Ignition, a Receipt Bank, Spotlight Reporting, there's a bunch of solutions out there that can help you. If you feel comfortable doing all the legwork, you will have great insights that will then, put you in a position to drive great insights for your small business. And by the way, they should feel very comfortable paying you more for that type of advice, because you will be the difference between them going out of business and staying in business or being outrageously, successful. And so I think there's a lot to be said for business advisory going forward.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Now, we love to ask the leadership question because in small business, it doesn't matter if we're talking about the professional services, accountants and bookkeepers, or their clients. One of my original mentors said to me that by the age of 40, less than 10% of us worldwide have had any decent leadership training. Tell me about your philosophy to leadership.
I appreciate that. It's I love thinking on behalf of a team. I'm somebody who really likes to be passionate and excited about coming to work for any sort of organization. So honestly, Intuit has a very exciting mission, which is, powering prosperity around the world. I could literally get out of bed very excited about working for, that company. I now, wake up very excited to come to work at Receipt Bank, because our mission is to power advisors to give every small business the time and confidence to succeed. And so I'm a huge believer in a mission and a vision. And so I make that very transparent to my team. I think if there's a word that probably describes how I like to lead is transparency. It's around letting the team know what I expect of them, of letting them know what's expected of me, and letting them know what success looks like. And so being extremely transparent, then there's no way to sort of misinterpret what it's about. It's if you're transparent and you're very, you make those goals and strategies very visible, there's no room for, misinterpreting, which, clarity is extremely important to success. And so thanks for asking that. I really enjoy leading, but it's not easy to do, John, and nobody does it great. All we can do is keep trying to do better. And, you've just made me think about the fact that we just got back our engagement survey results. And, it's a way in which the team lets you know how you're doing, where you can do better. And so I love the fact that our team is very comfortable letting us know that they're very engaged at work, but there's always something we can do to take it to the next level.
And that's actually an interesting point you make about leadership, because what I've found, particularly with the accounting profession at large, the smaller the practice, doesn't matter if it's accounting or bookkeeping, the smaller it is, the less likely they are to feel comfortable initially asking for internal feedback, right?
Yes.
And yet, ironically, Richard Branson would say the most important feedback is coming from your employees, not even your clients, because if your employees are engaged and motivated, they're at the coalface with more interaction with the clients than the execs.
What I found really interesting is, business at the core is all about people. You can have a great strategy, but if you don't execute it well, then, nothing goes anywhere. And what I have found to be the case over time is how you treat each other at work shows itself in how you then interact with customers. So as an example, it's very tough for employees to be really engaged and excited, in an organization, and then treat their customers badly. Or alternatively, if they're really unhappy at work, it's hard for them to treat customers well. It all sort of bleeds in from, within work and to outside of work. And so it pays to have a really engaged workforce, because they will in turn treat customers better, which will lead to business success. So,
yeah. Fantastic. Well, from our point of view, thank you for making the time to come on the show. And of course, we've got one final plug. We're together later in the year. It's only about 7 or 8 weeks away now for Accountants' Big Day Out.
We're excited.
Our 4 capital cities. Thank you for being one of our chief partners for that. We're really pleased for that. Anything new or any sneaky tips that you might have that you've got underway with your software that you might unveil when it comes around in mid-November?
You'll have to come to find out. But here's the piece that's not sneaky, and it's something we've been doing for the last few weeks, John, is we used to sell our software in a way in which you could only experience it if you rolled it out to all your clients. Part of the feedback we got is, hey, we should be able to experience the magic of Receipt Bank in smaller stepping stones. And so, as an example, if you want to, as a single user accountant or bookkeeper, if you want to put in as few as 4 of your clients on Receipt Bank for $99 a month, you can start sort of experiencing the magic of Receipt Bank. You can build up from there, but the ability to have a more affordable solution to start trying Receipt Bank is something that our smaller accounting firms and our bookkeepers asked for. And so we've gotten that off and running, and we've gotten great feedback so far. So if anybody wants to give us a shot, this is the time.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic, because even if it's not a small firm as well, they could be sizable. But if they know that they're not in a higher capital outlay for a lock-in contract to give something a try, that's a no-brainer.
And what we see from our partners is you will love Receipt Bank. We've been around for 10 years. We are the best of breed, kind of a solution in the pre-accounting or bookkeeping productivity world. And so we genuinely believe that all we got to do is bring you in, try us out for 4 clients, and then you're going to want to add us to all of your clients.
There it is. I'm an advocate. I'm a business owner, small business owner. I've got multiple things on the go, and I'm probably using this app at least 4 times a day on the road, and at least 2 or 3 when I'm not on the road, and as many as 10 on the road when we're doing a big road show. So you're absolutely right. It's a bit of a no-brainer.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show, Louise.
Thank you for having me.